Well, hello. We'll go through your midterm presentation, and we'll start by just taking a look at it and going through it. And then I'll make some comments, which hopefully will help you make a presentation down the road. So let's start by just taking a look at what you guys presented.
Hello. We are Monsanto's Vice President team, and we're here today to talk to you about the Writing Advantage. We'd also like to point out that we are associated with the Bauer Fund, and that is known to give scholarships to hardworking students like yourselves. So let's get right into it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are and why we're here today to talk to you about the Writing Advantage. Founded in 1901, we are a $60 billion company, and our intention today is to share some tips with you in regards to writing well and how to implement this not only now, but later on in your life. So, you may be wondering why we have this lovely picture of Oprah Winfrey here today. Well, here's why. Born in 1954, Oprah grew up on a farm in Mississippi, and later on was known to become one of the first Black female hosts of her popular television show, The Oprah Winfrey Show. However, it was not always that easy for her, and becoming the billionaire that she is today took a lot of hard work and dedication, especially in the communication field. She was born into poverty, molested during her childhood years, and then unfortunately lost a child at age 14 due to a premature birth. So needless to say, she's been through a lot of rough patches in her life, and resilience is a major factor contributing to where she stands today. It is also important to note that when she was 17, she began to work with her local radio station, sharing news with everyone. And then this later on contributed to her full ride scholarship that she got from Tennessee, where she pursued a communications major. And again, back to my point about resilience, this really contributed to the sharp voice that we all can distinguish her with.
Perfect. So let's talk about why writing is important. Writing is important because it is useful in many ways. It's useful in the workforce, it's useful in school, and as a hobby and in personal communication. Writing can also express your personality and your thoughts in a way where you can relate to others, but also have a strong communication at the same time. Finally, it is very important to find your own method of writing where you can incorporate who you are with what you want to say.
All right, so let's get into some of the basics of good writing and basically the bread and butter of what you really want to know when you get out of the senior writing class. So, you want to have a strong and consistent voice. And this is important because you not only distinguish what tone you want to set, but it is also important to keep your readers intrigued and want to keep reading the work that you have for them. And someone that we can tie to this point, who I previously mentioned, is Oprah. She not only has a very distinct voice in her television show, but also in the many published works that she's come out with over the years. Grammar, needless to say, is another very important aspect of good writing. Being grammatically correct will not only give your audience a sense that you know what you're talking about, but it'll also make the rhythm and the flow of your writing a lot more smooth. And you want to be simple with your points. You don't want to add anything too crazy that will distract from the point you're trying to get across or argument. And then last of all, and ultimately, know what you want to communicate. Don't add extra material that will deviate away from the point or argument you're trying to make with your audience.
So in the end, writing well equals doing well. And the good thing is that everybody can be a good writer, and every writer has their own unique purpose. Every writer has your own unique purpose. The key, though, is that you have to put in the work in order to create and develop a suspicious yet healthy mind where you can create great and new ideas, but also have an enlarged worldview and have a confident imagination. Our last and final example is Gandhi, a man who promoted peace, equality among humans, love and compassion to all through his writing. Thank you so much for your time.
So now we would like to open up our discussion to any questions that this class may have that we did not clarify. And we'd like to call up some of our other Vice President Associates, if you have any questions.
4 minutes, 37 seconds.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of this, and let's look at it in a little bit more in depth. Again, I do wish we were together so that you could ask any specific questions you have. First of all, let's comment on the slides. I thought they were excellent. Well put together, easy, straightforward. I'm going to make a suggestion along the way on the Gandhi slide, but point is you guys did great slides. Well done. All right, let's go.
Hello. We are Monsanto's Vice President team, and we're here today to talk to you about the Writing Advantage. We'd also like to point out that we are associated with the Bauer Fund, and that is known to give scholarships to hardworking students like yourselves. So let's get right into it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are and why we're here today to talk to you about the Writing Advantage. Founded in 1901, we are a $60 billion company.
Okay, so there's your first 30 seconds of the presentation. And you introduced yourselves. We know exactly who you were. We knew what you were talking about, which is really important, and that was really great. And you want to add in that 30 seconds something to get us excited, a hook, something to draw us in and really sit up and pay attention. We knew who you were, and we knew why you were coming. Teacher told us, right? I mean, he or she would have said, hey, we're getting the guys in from Monsanto. They're going to talk with you about writing. So you've already got the introduction that you need. And by focusing on a hook, something exciting, something to really draw your audience in and make them sit up and take notice, provides a whole lot more power for your presentation. Sydney actually talks very well. Her voice goes out, it's easy to hear, and I'm detecting a nervousness in it. And Sydney, I'm detecting that actually all the way through the whole presentation, and it concerns me because I can't tell if you're nervous because of having Louise there and me there, and now you're starting to go, oh my God, this isn't what I expected. If it's that, then it's important to learn that whenever you put together a presentation, you have to have the presentation or the ideas of the presentation really clear in your head. And to be an authentic speaker, like they talked about in that chapter, you now have to react to whatever audience you have. So that means the content or the ideas that you have don't change, but how you present changes. And you never know with an audience who you're going to get and what's going on. Now, you're going to get really much, much better at this with practice, because it really is a matter of practice. Again, I set it up that way with Louise and I there, acting as high school students, me as the clown, Louise is the more serious student, because that is what you're going to get in a high school environment. And I wanted to see how you guys reacted to that, because we did talk about knowing your audience and getting ready for them. But let's keep, the second thought, and I see this with Maricela as well. I'm a little afraid that maybe you guys didn't practice this presentation enough to get it sort of clear in your heads what you were doing. And I can't tell which it is, and if we were together, I would certainly ask you, because both of you are sort of stumbling a little bit. Again, it might be the case that the same problem exists. I know that you were both fond of the idea of meeting Louise, and maybe meeting her that way took you a little bit off guard. And so that's a different kind of problem than if you didn't practice it a lot. And if you did practice it a couple of times, well, and you may still need to practice a few more times until you really get a clear sense, because good presenting is developed by lots and lots of practice. But let's keep moving forward. Let's not beat this to death.
Our intention today is to share some tips with you in regards to writing well and how to implement this not only now, but later on in your life. So, you may be wondering why we have this lovely picture of Oprah Winfrey here today. Well, here's why. Born in 1954, Oprah grew up on a farm in Mississippi and later on was known to become one of the first Black female hosts of her popular television show.
And see, this is why I wonder, it's the way you stumbled. Later on became and was known to become, it almost sounds like you've tried to memorize a presentation as opposed to just talking about Oprah. You know your facts. She was born in 1954. She lived in a farm. Later on, she became this. She did these things. This really crappy thing happened to her when she was 14. There's your core ideas. And then just talk about them like you would with a friend and just say, hey, did you know this about Oprah? I think it's really important because it's going to show us how somebody who even has a bad, rough background can get turned around and make things happen by learning how to communicate well, which is ultimately what your point was. And so you would say that to a friend. Well, treat us as a friend, your audience as a friend. And it will make your life a whole lot easier, and it will help you to be feel more comfortable as you're presenting ideas. You won't be perfect. I mean, if you've listened to me talking just now, it's clear that I don't have each and every word completely perfect in my head, but I have the idea of what I'm trying to share with you and hopefully able to express it in a way that make sense for you. So I'll shut up and let's keep listening.
Oprah Winfrey Show. However, it was not always that easy for her, and becoming the billionaire that she is today took a lot of hard work and dedication, especially in the communication field. She was born into pop.
Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the volume and we're just going to watch you, and we're also going to watch Maricela. Both of you are up there. Your intonation, your tone, your voice is really strong. I don't want to ignore that. I don't want us to ignore it. You really do. You project well. You speak clearly. It's easy to hear you. Passion does come through. We know you care about this. It's obvious, and that's important. And you make it so that we understand that it's obvious for you. And that's important, and we get that. So you've done that really, really, really well, Sydney. But now let's watch the body language. Let's start with Sydney. She's got her arms behind her back, which is fine. She's moving back and forth, which is fine. It shows, there we go, arms come forward. She's making a point, and then arms go back again, other arm coming forward. As we watch Sydney, it's clear that this person is actually fairly comfortable in her skin, if you will. She's just being herself up there, and that's important. Her body language doesn't sound like, or nice, Ralph, doesn't look like she's trying to hide anything or that she's telling us something but thinking something different. There's a clear fluidity in how you present, and that's really excellent, Sydney. And it's also really important when you're making presentations. So job very, 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 very well done there. I'm glad you just went out to be yourself. And that's one of the most important things you can do in a presentation. It's excellent. Let's take a look over at Maricela. Notice how she's very still. And why am I bringing this up? If she's going to be at the front of the room with Sydney, she's not getting in the way. She's not distracting the audience in any way, shape, or form. She almost virtually disappears. We can easily focus on Sydney. We aren't distracted out of the corner of our eye. And that's really well done, Maricela. That's exactly what you want to be doing if you're going to stand up there. There's no swaying. There's nothing to distract us. So you did an excellent job of being a presenting partner and making sure that when Sydney's talking, all our eyes are on her. Really well done. Okay, I'm going to put the volume back on.
Again, back to my point about resilience. This really contributed to the sharp voice that we all can distinguish her with.
Perfect. So let's talk about why writing is important.
So I love that transition. perfect. You're giving a compliment to your co-presenter, which is going to make her feel good. That's wonderful, right? It's going to really help her go, okay, I did a good job. I didn't make any major screw ups. Excellent. You're now helping her to relax, which is vital after all the time and energy she's put into presenting. And don't underestimate how excellent a transmission trade-off that was, because she knew that you thought she did a great job. The rest of us gained confidence, and we also saw something about you that was very natural. You care. And so now we're going to be more interested in talking. And again, let's listen to you as you go.
Writing is important because it is useful in many ways. It's useful in the workforce, it's useful in school, and as a hobby and in personal communication. Writing can be expressed.
Now, I want to go back here a little bit. Whoops, nowhere near that far. Okay. Let's shut off the sound. Okay, and let's watch. Watch how Maricela goes into the light, out of the light. Turns, goes behind, tries to get out of the way, into the light, and she's going to start moving back out of the light. Maricela, you got caught up in something that can happen to you. And this is something you need to be very careful about. When you get the light of the projector in your eyes, it can be incredibly uncomfortable. And let me tell you a quick story, if I may. I was the president of the ski club at our university and undergraduate school, and we got together with the student association for a fundraiser and some advertising to get students to join the club and go on our ski trips, and also to get some money from the entry fee to watch a band play. They were a fairly cool local band at the time. So when it was my turn to go up and talk to the front, at the front of the stage where the microphone was, I walked up, and as soon as I turned around, the spotlight was straight into my eyes, and I couldn't see anything but the spotlight. And I found that incredibly difficult. It just threw me off completely at that time. And I went, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it made me uncomfortable, and I spoke really rather poorly. Now, I would have loved to have gotten out of the spotlight, but I didn't, because I didn't understand at the time. I could have just grabbed the microphone, walked off to the side, talked on the stage and stuff like that. I've learned that since. The reason the spotlight was there was that the lead singer didn't want to see the audience. He was incredibly uncomfortable with a crowd of people in front of him. So the band set it up, and the lighting people set it up so that the light was always in his eyes and he couldn't see anybody. He knew it. He was comfortable with it. He'd adjusted to it. I didn't know it, and it blew me away. And having the light in your eye when you're presenting gets uncomfortable. And it's also, in a slide presentation, not such a great thing. So what you should have done, Maricela, is you really wanted to go over here where Sydney was, where she was out of the way of the light. And I suspect you guys didn't practice this enough. This is another reason I wonder if you didn't practice it enough. Because, excuse me, you'd have known that that's what was going to happen to you. And you retreat back in here, and that's not a good thing. It makes you uncomfortable. It makes you disconnected from the audience. So you really want to go to this side and just get to a place where when you move, and you like to move when you talk, which is a great thing, you have the space to move. Next time, I'm sure that's exactly what you're going to do. This time through, you didn't, but that's okay. Let's get the phone.
You can relate to others, but also have a strong communication at the same time. Finally, it is very important to find your own method of writing where you can incorporate who you are with what you want to say.
Right, now I also want to compliment you, Marissa, on a couple of things. When you talk clearly. When you talk, it's really nice to hear your voice. You've got a pleasant voice. It invites me to lean in, to join in the conversation and connect with you. That's absolutely wonderful. It's great, and it's completely natural. You're not sliming me or trying to play a slick salesman who's trying to draw me in. You're a genuine human being who genuinely wants me to connect with you and understand what you have to say. And I get that through and through. And same thing with your body language overall. A thing you probably going to want to work on is you can speak louder. Now, we usually hear our voice in our own ear. That's pretty weird to begin with, especially when we're talking on our own as opposed to being in a conversation when we get distracted from that. And then we say, well, I can already hear me. And even if I speak really quietly, I can still really hear me because the volume in my head doesn't actually go down much, because what I'm hearing is through my ear bones. They vibrate because of my voice, and the volume never changes in my ear, but what comes out of my mouth does. So you gotta practice a little more and get a sense of how loud you need to talk so that everybody in the room can hear you. I'd suggest you can probably talk 2, maybe even 3 times as loud as you do, and you won't be anywhere close to yelling at your audience, and we'll be able to hear you all the way toward the back of the room. Again, you speak wonderfully. You're very inviting when you talk. You enunciate your words really well. They're clear. It's easy to understand what you're saying. So you're doing a great job on those lines. Let's keep going a little
So
bit.
let's get into some of the basics of good writing and basically the bread and butter of what you really want to know when you get out.
I'm going to move us forward a little bit here.
And you want to be simple with your points. You don't want to add anything too crazy that will
Because
distract from the point
Sydney
you're trying to
is doing the same
get
thing
across or
in
argument.
this part as she did
And
in
then
the
last of
first
all,
part.
and ultimately, know what you want to communicate. Don't add extra material that will deviate away from the point or argument you're trying to make with your audience.
So in the end, writing well
So you
equals doing well. And
see, again, as soon as you turned down, Maricela, you saw the light in your eyes and it was uncomfortable and you moved out of the way, or if nothing else, you moved out of the way so we could see the whole slide. So you see how this physical part of the room is a dangerous place to be when you're presenting. And that's part of owning the room, guys. You want to make sure anytime you're presenting, if you run into something like that, look around the room, find a place where you can be comfortable, and that needs to be part of your discussion with your presenting partner, or if you're on your own, just with yourself, to find that place where you can be comfortable and where you know you're not going to get distracted. You see that I usually walk around the room a little bit, and actually what happens to me every now and then, because I'm pretty confident I know this is where I want to be, I'm looking at the audience, I'll bump into the table, and this one particularly hits me in the thigh. And sometimes that really hurts because that's how awkward it is. For the most part, I know pretty much where I need to walk to avoid the pain. So always make sure, own the room, right? It's your room. Now here I wanted to talk about the slides. This particular slide, you've really jammed the stuff up here with your bullet points, and visually it's a bit of a problem. This was in here fine, by the way, on the screen when we saw it in the room. When it gets videoed, the light shows, don't sweat it. It came through. That's not a problem at all. But the placement of the words here is not the best. So something different would be better, because it just all gets jammed up here and this is all sort of empty. So visually the appeal isn't quite there. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. You could move over the picture of Gandhi a little bit more to the middle. You can have writing well equals doing well centered over top of that picture, all of it moved over. And then you can have your future over here and Gandhi over here. Although, frankly, I think most people recognize that this is Gandhi. And you're going to say it anyways. You do say it. So you don't need to put that there. Now, you didn't talk about them right away, so maybe another potential solution with this slide is you just put writing well and doing well in the middle of the slide. That's it. That's all you've got on that slide. Um, and you might want to put your future depends on it. Then on the next slide, you bring in Gandhi's face, and then you talk about how he did it and how valuable it was. So let's move on. Again, this isn't a horror story. You're doing the right thing. You got the 36-point font. There's hardly anything on your bullet points, which is exactly what you want in terms of too many words is bad. Those are all great. It's just visually something to think about in terms of making strides or slides and strides in doing better presentations. All right, let's move forward. We notice here.
The thing is that everybody can be a good writer, and
I don't want to interrupt, Marcella. Again, you're talking really well. The same things applied that we saw early on. And
everybody's writing. Thank you so much for your time.
So now we would like to open up our discussion to any questions that this class may have that we did not clarify. And we
so here it's a time question. Remember I said it's got to be 5 minutes, 10 seconds on either side. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to dock you a grade because you didn't fill up the 5-minute time slot. And that's important to learn how to do it. And it's important because if you got 5 minutes, use every second of those 5 minutes. Don't go overtime. How do you guys feel when a professor keeps talking after class essentially has come to an end? You don't like it much. Well, your audience isn't going to like it much either if they're going to have a 5-minute speech. So I'm trying to help you guys focus in on if you got 5 minutes, use 5 minutes, put together a presentation that fits in there. Let's go on to the question and answer.
call up some of our other vice president associates if you have any questions.
4 minutes, 37 seconds.
Yes.
Really, Jacob? Come on.
Yeah, is it okay to use a really fancy sort of script and curly Q font?
And guys, really, hands in pockets doesn't cut it, okay? You can't stand like that in front of an audience. You just can't. It's just no. No, 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 okay? It looks too casual, it looks too indifferent. And even if you're talking to a high school audience and you want to be somewhat laid back, this undermines your credibility as being vice presidents. You are vice presidents. You're people in a position of power. Show it. Don't abuse it, but demonstrate that you've got it and make sure you make it happen, okay?
For writing business?
That because it's not universal. Not everybody can understand cursive, and not everybody has a universal cursive format as well.
I guess maybe you decided that the people who walk up are all going to sit there with your hands in your pockets. I don't know. And you can't come in late. I mean, that completely distracts. You've got the question. Louise asked the question. Maricella's answering it. At that point, you've got to wait for that to finish before you go across the back and come in and stand beside it. The other alternative is you could have gone through the classroom in behind so that the field of vision isn't cut off and then come in on this side here. Either one of those would have worked, but you cannot walk onto the stage when one of your colleagues is in the middle of answering a question. It's way too distracting, especially Clown Boy that's sitting beside Louise. He's going to stop listening. He's just going to watch you because he's looking for any excuse not to pay attention. I'm going to back this up again so we can hear Louise asking the question and Maricela responding to it.
Q font for writing business?
That because it's not universal. Not
Maricela, again, here when answering questions, let the person finish their question. Let Louise express everything that she has to say. And better to have a pause after the question that's kind of dead air for a little bit to make sure she can finish off her question because she might still be formulating it in her head. Don't jump over top of her. Let her finish talking and then answer the question. Even though the question was a little obvious, Give her the time to completely express herself. Otherwise, she'll feel cut off, and that will back her off from listening. So always, when somebody asks a question, let them finish, and then ask them, are you got it clear? Is this what you're saying? That active listening feedback stuff I've talking about, you can always do that. Or if the question is very obvious, like Louise's was, excuse me, and we did that on purpose. We wanted to give you guys a question that was a bit of a softball so that you had a bit of an opportunity to warm up to the questioning, because you know, Clown Boy beside her was going to be a pain in the butt, right? But here we go.
Everybody can understand cursive, and not everybody has a universal cursive format as well. So it's better to write in print and in clear form.
Now, Maricela, you really did a good job answering that question, right? Again, your body language was very natural. Your tone of voice changed. Do you see how serious the tone of voice became? And that was exactly what you want to do. It's a serious question. And you know, as a professional, that it requires a caring and serious answer, because you know that if you let Louise run off and start using script, she's going to get into trouble and she's not going to be seen as professional. You validated that she liked to do it, and at the same time you slowly drew her to the position where you said, you better use print fonts, because that's just the way it is in the business world, in a very kind, connecting, and lovely fashion. So let's keep going.
Any more questions?
You know it's coming.
Is it okay to use emojis when you're like emailing your boss?
Now, the smile was great, because what you're telling is you're looking at the rest of your group of people and saying, one of you guys catch it. I've already talked, one of you guys catch it. Perfect. It helps the audience feel that you're not going to hog space, helps the audience feel there's a good reason that all these people are at the front, because they're all smart and they all have something to offer. Very, very well done.
It's very unprofessional, and it kind of gives a very bad rap on yourself and can make you look a little bit lazy. So we really encourage people to shy away from using like slang and emojis when they're communicating with somebody that is higher than them and ultimately their boss. Just like your shirt says.
Okay, sweet, right? I mean, you did two things here. You were kind again in your answer, right? You really took into account that this was a young person who's serious about the emoji stuff. She doesn't know, and your tone of voice helps her to feel that she matters to you and that the question is important. You're not making any fun of her. You're not going, oh, geez, that's a stupid question. You're going, well, you got to think about that. And there's some problems, and here's some of the things that you need to think about and things that you need to consider. And you helped her see really nicely, I'm going to say sweetly and in a caring fashion, that she probably can't be doing this. And that was excellent. That was really well done. It was genuine. It was real. It was concerned. It also shows that there's a big part of you where, yeah, I'd like to use emojis too, because I think they're really cool, they're fun, and they express things in ways that words don't, which I think is also true. And you said, well, you and I are in the same boat, suffering the same problem. We're constrained by the reality of the working world. You shared something, and then of course you did something really smart, right? You immediately pointed over to the shirt, which is going to make the kid with the shirt feel really important, because he's already flaunting authority right there, wearing that into a high school class, right? And you're saying, hey, dude, that's cool. And so you're really providing us with a connection that's invaluable. Excellent, really well done.
It's all about the altitude.
Absolutely, man. So, like, I'm gonna keep it real. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be like 2 Chainz, Big Sean, 42 Doug, right? How does any of this shit help me? Like, if I'm gonna be like these guys?
Yeah. Okay, I'll take.
Yeah, that was a tricky one, right? Because I think each one of you had an answer and you didn't know whether you should jump in or not. I see that as, I'm going to say it again, I see that as really sweet because you're all going, well, which one of us wants to grab it? But it also makes your audience feel, well, each one of you wants to grab it. You've got an answer. And then finally, Sydney jumps in there and takes it, which is fine.
I don't know if you have done a lot of research on any of those people, but I'm sure they were really urged to excel in their writing to get where they are today. So that's why a lot of our points apply to you guys.
They worked in poetry, they worked in, like Jay-Z, for example, he's
Okay, I'm going to stop again here. Maricela, you really just transitioned so well. You knew that Sydney was finished talking, and you jumped in nicely. And it was such a cool transition. You just go, oh, she's talking with me now. It's excellent. It's just marvelous to see.
he studied the whole dictionary so he could know every single word and he knew every meaning. That way when he was at Rap Battles, he could come up with words without having to think about it. So he had, in a sense, a wider vocabulary than before he was a rapper.
And all of these names you've listed, all these rappers, they also have a very strong voice when they are speaking their language, which is rap. That's kind of what we're trying to communicate here is have a strong active voice in your writing.
Cool, good.
So again, you guys just passed it off from one to the other, and it was clear that you were thinking about what was being said, and you each added to each other. And I love the way you closed that off with the strong voice part, which I think is exactly what rappers are trying to do, and exactly what that kid's going to want to try and do, right? And you immediately tied it back. That's what we're trying to say here, is strong voice is important, and implicit in that statement is what we showed you will give you a strong voice. And that's what you want, isn't it? So it was a really good idea to listen to us and learn from, I just want to make sure it looks just right there. Listen to you and learn what you guys had to say so that he can become a better rapper. So there were some very good things in this presentation, as I've hopefully shown you guys. The handoffs in the question and answer were absolutely lovely. Some of the body language stuff, we got to watch out. Gentlemen, hands in pockets. No, 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 no. No. Careful about walking behind the group when a question's being asked. Again, though, the tone of language you guys all use, you obviously all cared to help the student out. That showed and it came through really nicely. In terms of Maricela and Sydney presenting, it was great how you talked. You were clear, you were easy to listen. Your nerves and your choppiness, though, is a problem. And that kind of choppiness is eliminated through enough practice. And like I said, I would like to ask you this question so that we know for sure whether it's true that you didn't practice it enough or whether you got thrown off by having Louise in the classroom as well, or even maybe by my antics, which is typical of a high school student. Either way, you've got to be ready for that. And you've got to make sure you don't do, you've got to be ready for that, and you got to make sure that you stay smooth. I told you guys that knowing your audience is important. And if you think about what high school kids are like, that's exactly how they're like. So you ought to be coming in armed with that. You should be expecting it, so you're ready to go. All right. So I'm going to give you a B- on this, but bear with me so that you can see how you got that grade, okay? First of all, you got the mistakes that I outlined that you make would have got you to an A-. Unfortunately, because you didn't have the time, I told you, and I will take that grade away for not filling in the full 5 minutes. That is so vital when you're making a presentation. You have to fill the time that you have, and don't go short, don't go long. That's one of the most important skills to develop when you're talking. So there were some very, very good things that you did in this presentation, some excellent talk in terms of how you talked. You were easy to listen to. You were natural, which is really, really important and really, really valuable. And I'm glad that we saw that. And I just changed my mind, and I'm going to put that grade up to a B, because being natural, and as natural as you all were in that, is really actually very important. And the degree to which you did that offsets some of the other mistakes that you made. So yeah, it would have been an A presentation minus the time short, which is what grade? So it's a B presentation. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that you did do that, and you did that very, very well. Keep practicing. You're going to get better at this as you go along and do more and more presentations. It just gets easier over time. The more times you practice, the better you do. Take videos of yourselves. When you're practicing with your team, have somebody in the team take a video so that you can look at yourself and see how you're doing, so that you get a sense of how you're reacting at the front of the room. Your friends will tell you you've made an error here or there. They're also going to be encouraging, all of which is good. And there's nothing like seeing your own mistake on screen so that you can overcome it and you can feel it coming, and then you can sidestep it when you're doing the real presentation. Anyway, hopefully this is helpful. I'm going to get out of here, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.